Hey everyone, this is Lauren with Bushel and Peck. We are making yet another awesome craft today. Today's going to be our mermaid string art, or mermaid twine art, I guess you could say. And today's video is for those of you that purchased the Take Home Bushel, which is our take and make craft kit. And this specifically is for Kings Bay MWR, but I will try to help anyone watching who did not purchase the kit that might want to try this craft at home. I'll try to give you an idea of the kind of items that you're going to need, and for those of you that have a kit, these items will be in there. And yeah, so before we get started, I just want to give a little information about our social media. It would be great if you guys could follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. It's at Bushel and Peck on Facebook. You'll see a little basket with a paintbrush in it. And then I think we are Bushel Peck Art on Instagram and Twitter. So if you guys follow us there, we do lots of giveaways for free classes and free craft kits and all kind of things. And for those of you that have seen our videos before, this one's going to look a little bit different because my camera died, my battery died, and I forgot to charge it. So I'm at an angle over here. I'm webcamming this for you guys, so bear with me if the angle is a little bit off. It's kind of hard to move my computer around, but that's what happens when you forget to charge your camera battery. So here we are. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. This is one of our more simple crafts. That's not too in depth. In your kit, you'll have a 20-inch. I think it's about a 20-inch by 9.5, 10-inch board. We're going to be using it this way. You're going to have some Glidden high endurance bright white paint for the background. Apple Barrel Caribbean, Apple Barrel Bright Blue, and Apple Barrel Cobalt. You're going to need some tacky glue. And for those of you doing the MWR kit, you will need two things from home. You'll need a pencil or pen. I'm just going to use a colored pencil because any mistakes we make drawing out the stencil, you can always paint over them. But you will need a pencil or something to trace your stencil, and a pair of scissors to cut your twine. And you should have a plate in your kit, a paintbrush. May or may not see how the sponge technique works. I'm going to do some experimenting on this one, but you may or may not have a sponge in there. A pair of gloves for the paint we're going to be using here. We don't want to get that on you. Some twine for the scales, the mermaid scales. And then you'll see a Mylar stencil that we cut on our Cricut machine, and that stencil will be in your kit as well. And then I may or may not customize mine a little bit more today by adding a couple different shades of glitter. We'll see how I feel. But that's all you need. That's gonna be everything here is gonna be in your kit, with the exception of just stuff you have around the house, like a pair of scissors and a pencil or pen to trace your stencil. So I'm actually going to use a different board than this one. I already have a board from another experimental project I was doing, so I'm gonna save this good one for you guys. For those of you that watch my videos often, you'll know sometimes I use my experimental items or my first try items in my videos. That way you guys end up getting the actual really nice boards that I had custom made for you guys. So with that being said, oops, this is the one I'm going to be using. It was a botched one, and it has like a chunk of wood taken out here, and You know, it's got some lines and things like that on it. And I try to stencil out. So it's gonna be messed up. This is one of our ugly boards. So it was the one that I've been playing around with and experimenting with. So that's the one I'm gonna use today. Yeah, so there's that. I'm gonna go ahead and off camera get some paint ready on my plate here. You guys may not need to use your paint. I mean, you don't have to, because each one of your colors is going to be in its own container, own little plastic container. So I may or may not even give you guys plates. It might be unnecessary at that point. You could just dip out of your cup. But I'm going to go ahead and get me some paint poured on my plate for the background. For right now, we're just going to work with the white paint. So I'm going to clear my area here, and all I want to have in front of me is my brush, my paintbrush, my white paint, and my board. So let's go ahead and clear everything off, get our gloves on, and clear our space, and we will start the painting process on that background color. All right, we have our board, our paint, and our brush. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Let's go ahead and put a nice light coat on. Now, obviously, I'm going to not do a light coat because I have black paint on here. So I may need to do 2 or 3 heavy coats. But for yours, honestly, since this is house paint, just one good coat is all you'll need on your board. But let's go ahead and just paint this now. And depending on coverage, I may not even need multiple coats, because you see there how good that coverage is. I may not even need more than one coat. So let's go ahead and paint that. And if you want to, you can go ahead and paint the sides as well. Okay. Now, while I am painting this, I just want to remind you that since it is house paint and it's latex, it's going to take at least an hour to dry. Now, that being said, if in 30 minutes you come by and look at your board and you notice that it's already dry and good to go, then that's fine. But it's recommended to wait an hour. So that's why this one was a really good take-home kit, because it's something that you can go ahead and do a coat of that paint, and then you have time enough to let it dry and come back later and do your next part. So that's not something we'd be able to do in the class. Okay. And I know this is so far away. Usually I'm a little bit closer, like about right here. You guys can see everything, but like I said, don't have my camera today. So, I mean, it's just painting the board, and you can see some of the letters coming through. So I'm gonna need a second coat after this one dries. Okay. So there you go. That's that first coat. And then go ahead and get the sides and the ends there all the way around. And I'm going to go ahead and let this dry and come back when I've got the second coat on mine. Again, you're not going to need it, but let's take this chance for you to let yours dry. So give it at least 30 minutes. You can check on it. If it's ready, then you can keep going. If not, go ahead and give it an hour, and then we'll keep going. So let's go ahead and get some drying time done. Okay, we are back, and our board is dry. It's not perfect because of the background letters I had and everything, but you guys should be good to go. Now, this point, we can go ahead and use our stencil And as you can see, I know it's hard to see because it's clear, obviously, but there's the fat part up top, and it goes down into a skinnier tail, and then it curves around, and it has the fin on the end. Okay, so on the left side of the pattern is a straight edge. So you'll see it's a straight edge. I'm going to line that straight edge up and the top with the top left of my board. Okay. I want to put it all the way to the very top, and I'm going to line it up in the top left corner so that the body or the hips of the mermaid is here, and it's going to narrow down and come around into the fin here. Okay, so at that point, and this is just an outline, guys, so if you want to, for instance, I might go back and make her hips a little bit wider. So if I trace up here, if I go ahead and trace this, and I decide I want to actually make her hip or this curve go out a little bit more, you can. Or here in the fin, you can give it more of a little flare on the end, or a little curve on each end. You can do that as well. Or you can just use the pattern as is. And then her fin is also going to have a little dip in the middle. Okay, and we can, we don't have to worry about that until later, because we actually, we're going to draw it. I'll show you how to do that, and I'll make sure that your pattern has that indentation. Or if it doesn't, there'll be a little notch right here in the middle of the decal, and that will tell you where you need to add some lines to make her tail split in the middle. Okay, so it needs like a triangle shape in the middle. All right, let's go ahead and trace this. It'll be easier for me to show you once it's traced what I'm talking about. So line it up, top left corner, and just lightly trace it. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because the stencil itself is not perfect. You know, it's bumpy, it has ridges, and also the wood that we're working on is a pallet, so it has lines in it from the wood, so it's not going to be perfect either. So just need a basic outline. And anywhere we make mistakes or change our mind, we can either expand it to make it larger and paint it in more, or we can go back over it with the white paint and cover it up and touch it up later. So this is not a perfect outline, it's just a general idea of where we're going to be painting. Okay. Trace that, and then there's my little notch right there, so I need to remember to go back and make that a deep V. If it helps you, you can tape this down too. I'm just going to hold it. And basically, everywhere where we're drawing this line is where we're going to be tracing it. We're going to be painting it in, but we're also going to be putting rope or twine on this outline as well, because that's going to be where we determine where to put the rope. I'll remove the decal or the stencil. I'll show you guys. So it is a very, you know, rough estimate or sketch of the shape of what we want. Now here, I think what I'm actually going to do, I used a color pencil, so I'll need to go back and paint over this, but I think what I'm going to do for her tail, instead of making it flat across like that, I think I'm going to do like that. I'm going to do like in the middle, and then have it go like that. And then this line right here, I'll paint back in with some white paint. So I think I'm just gonna like, yeah, I think I'll just like sketch that, and that'll be like her fin there. And then as far as the top of her, and I know it's so hard to see because of the setup today, but as you see her hips there, I mean her hips are probably okay. Let me see if I can't. There we go. I can't adjust very well with this camera. I mean, I guess her hips are okay. We could make them go out a little bit more if we wanted to. Don't need to. Let's see how that would look. Would that look good? I don't know. Let's keep her like that. Let's keep her a little, yeah, I think that'll be fine. And then once we give her that little hook right there, that little indentation, and we fix that there, I think we'll be good. So, okay. Now, I'm going to, at this point, we're going to start doing our ombre effect. Now, there are a couple different schools of thought for the ombre effect. One of them is you need to start with your darker color and then bring down the lighter color and then move into the lightest color. The other school is go the opposite. Honestly, they're about the same to me, the same process. For you guys and for your purposes, I could try to maybe teach you guys, maybe we do it 3 different colors instead of trying to ombre blend it right away. I'll have to think on that. So let me go, I'm going to go off camera now and fix this little line here and get rid of that with my white paint. And let's see. Yeah, I think we'll probably do light and then work into the dark. So yeah, let me go ahead and do this, fix this off camera, and we'll go ahead and get our paint. So you guys go ahead and get the lids off of your light paint only right now, and we'll do a little bit of painting, and you'll need your brush. Oh, you need to clean the white paint out of your brush, by the way. So go ahead and do that, and we'll meet right back here. Alrighty, so that's what that little curve ended up looking like, and it's gonna be filled in. It'll be prettier and nicer, but see the little curve there? You want to make sure you add one of those if you can. And obviously, because my board has a chunk of wood missing from it, it's going to look a little bit different than yours, but you can make this as dramatic as you want. If you want a little flip on the end, like a little, you know what I mean. You determine what kind of mermaid you want, but that decal or the stencil that I gave you is just a base stencil. You have to determine the details that you want from that point. Using your pencil, you can erase or and make any changes. If you want to make her a little thicker and chubbier up top, you can. If you don't want to make a curve at all, you can make it straight across. So let's go ahead and get started with the first color. The easiest way to do that is to do it in 3 parts: light, the middle color, and then the darkest color up top. So I'm just going to make a general mark about where I want to end my light color. I'm going to do maybe about right there. And then my medium color, I want to maybe start blending it about right here. And then my darker color, I'll start blending it more up that way. So I might give her a little bit more. How about a little bit more light? Let's give her more light. Let's start blending about right here instead. So yeah, that should work. Okay. So just little notes to yourself where do you want to stop one color and start blending the other. Okay. So with that being said, I've got my Caribbean blue, which is the lightest color in your kit, and we will pan back down, and I will try to make this as easy for you guys to see as possible. And we're just going to fill it in. We're just going to fill in that fin with our brush. And if you make any mistakes or go outside the line, remember, we can fix whatever happened. So just start having fun with it, and don't go too heavy in the curves of the board, the lines. It's going to be difficult for me to hold this, but you guys will get the gist of it. It's the curves in the palette that are really going to be a pain, but anywhere that we mess those up, we can fix it later. And if you have a more fine brush at home, maybe you have a nice little watercolor brush or fine brush, that will work too. But it is not necessary, because if we go outside the lines, we can always just paint over it with white. And to get that more fine edge, you just pull. And these colors, the water-based colors that we're doing for the tail, they're going to need to be probably a second coat. We'll see how this one goes. If we do it heavy enough this first time, we may not have to. Okay. And as you see, I have gone outside the lines a couple times. Not a problem. We'll make her pretty. We'll fix her. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go to that line that I talked about, the line that we made earlier. And don't forget, we're going to be outlining this better with the rope. So, all right. That's going to need a second coat if we really want it to pop. So while that second coat is painting, or drying, sorry, our first coat is drying, I'm going to go ahead and get the next brightest color, or the next darkest color. That's that bright blue. And while this paint is still wet, I'm going to start bringing it up. And we can blend this better later, but right now we just want to get color on the board. And take a little bit of that teal if you want and pull it into it. And you see how I'm going to be pulling it, and I'm going to blend it better, but taking some of that and blending it in. And then the further up we go, when we get up to that line we marked here, then we're going to start pulling in the darker color, okay? But before we pull in that darker color, I'm going to stop about right at that line. And put just the straight blue up here. And it's just a lot of blending and adding paint in here and there to get a blend. And the second coat, we'll go ahead and start. So we're going to do exactly what we just did all over again. Start just with light. We're going to clean our brush out. Go wash your brush. Start just with light. And then add that little bit of dark, and then full medium. So the Caribbean, a little bit of medium and Caribbean, and pull all the way to a full medium. Okay, and then we're going to once we have 2 coats of that, of those 2 blended, then and only then will we start worrying about the dark, because this bottom part here, we want to make sure we blend that really well, because that's going to be the main focus of the piece, is that tail, that fin on the end. So I'm going to go ahead and go rinse out my brush really quick, and then we'll come back and we'll do the exact same thing that we just did. Okay, I've got my brush cleaned. I'm going to start that next process. I'm going to do it off camera since I already showed you how to do that, and to save a little bit of time. But go ahead and do that second layer of those colors, and then we'll meet right back here to start on the dark blue. Okay, we've just done the second layer. I've gone outside the lines quite a bit, so we're going to need to do some cleaning up later. But that's our second layer. While your brush is still a mixture of the medium and the Caribbean, we're going to bring in the darkest blue. Okay. And now we're going to go ahead and do the darkest blue part. Taking the already dirty brush that's got the 2 different colors on it, take the littlest bit of that dark blue and start pulling it from the lighter blue up. Okay, you pull a little bit, then you add a little bit more of the dark. And you go a little bit higher. And the same thing, you keep adding and adding and adding more dark until you get to the very top. Pulling in some of that light to make it darker, an ombre. Okay. Now, that's not going to look perfect because the second layer is when we're going to go, we're going to get the lighter colors and bring them back up for the second layer. So go rinse your brush out. Now that you've got all that dark in it, we don't want to start at dark anymore. We want to start back at the medium and pull the medium into the dark for a better ombre. So now it's a lot of cleaning out brushes and a lot of pulling the lighter into the darker colors and then making that effect. So now we're going to go rinse our brush again, and then we're going to do the exact same thing we just did. Start with kind of a medium here and pull it very gently up into darkness, into that darker blue, that pretty ocean blue. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me go rinse the brush. All right, we are back with a clean brush. A little bit wet, even better if it's just a little tiny bit wet. All right, to get that medium color, get just a little bit of that on your brush. Kind of refresh that medium and dark area. Pulling it into that dark. And some of the dark will come down into the medium. And they'll start kind of blending together. And you can adjust as needed if you pull too much dark down or too much light up. And then once you start going up, you'll see that you need to start adding some dark for that second coat. And if the little bit of white peeking through bothers you, you can always do a third coat, but it's not necessary because we're going to be covering up a lot of it with the scales. But if it bothers you, then just repeat this whole process for a third time. So before we've made any corrections, you know, we're still outside the lines and everything, this is what we've got so far for a second coat. Okay, and you can see that ombre effect there. So light, pulled in a little bit of medium, 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 dark. Okay, and I think I'm actually going to add more dark to make it more dramatic. Oh, that's the wrong dark. That's the wrong color. I'm going to add a little bit more dark to make it more dramatic. A little bit heavier on the paint. So it's just a lot of pulling and adjusting and seeing how you like it. You may not like it as dark as I have it up there. And as you'll see, I'll go back and forth using the different colors. Just kind of playing with them and blending them, creating my own idea of ombre. Clean your brush as often as you need. You can make your own custom colors in the middle of a plate if you want to get a plate. Start your own custom colors. Ombre is very forgiving, so you can kind of do your own thing with it. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit more dark and then be done with the painting, because this painting is very time consuming. And as you can see, parts of it are getting really overworked just from me trying to correct it. So don't be afraid to be like, hey, tell yourself, stop messing with it. It's fine, it's perfect, leave it alone. And then hopefully you will listen to yourself, unlike me. Okay. All right. So she's got a pretty decent ombre on her. Okay. She's got some highlighting going on. I kind of dig it. Little highlights, little lowlights. Okay. Now, give that at least 30 minutes to dry. We'll clean up our area, rinse out our brush, and we will move on to the very last part of this entire project. We'll be right back. Okie dokie. Now I'm gonna let this dry that 30 minutes I was telling you about, and then I'm going to go over it on the outside and clean up all of those edges that I messed up. I'm going to go over that with the white paint. That way when we go to line it with our twine, we have a very nice, pretty outline to work with. So if you want to go back through and fix all of the little areas that you went out of with your white paint, let's go ahead and do that now. So rinse out your brush and get you some more white paint and go ahead and clean up everything and make everything nice and crisp. And then we're going to take our twine, once that's dry, once everything on your board is dry, we're going to take our twine and our craft glue, and you're going to take the craft glue and trace the outline of the tail, of the entire tail, with that glue. And using your twine, starting at that top left edge, you're going to glue an outline down. Put your twine down along the entire edge and wrap it around and follow the curves of the stencil that you drew. Okay, so outline your entire thing with a twine string, with a twine outline. And then we'll come back and I'll show you how to do the scales. So let's go ahead and off camera do a cleanup process with the white paint, wait for everything to dry, and then we will glue on that outline. Well, here it is. This is our outline. So we've touched everything up with the white, and then we did, and my glue is still drying, so that's the white that you see here. I can't get really used to this backwards thing on the webcam, but that's just glue drying, so don't worry about that. But this is what it looks like with our outline while the glue is still drying. Now the next thing we're going to do is get our scales ready. Now for scales, we're going to use the other bundle of our twine that we have, and we're going to try to be as precise as possible. Choose a size scale that you want. I used 2 inches. I measured 2 inches on my ruler. But another way you can decide how big you want them is to hold it up and see if that's a good size scale for you. And if it is, say this 2-inch size is good, then you go to your bundle and you use it as a measure, a unit of measure, and you cut as precisely as you can all your scales. You're going to cut out all your scales, and you'll have a little bundle of 2-inch pieces of the twine for your scales. Okay, and then the pattern, for instance, as wide as mine is going to be about 3 across. So 1, 2, 3, and then it might end too short, so cut just enough to finish off like a half of a curve, like a half a scale. So you do 1 scale, 2 scale, 3 scale, and then whatever's left, cut you a custom piece. And then for the second layer, so say that piece is glued on, the second layer is going to start in the middle, and I'll do a couple examples and show you. It's going to start in the middle as if the scale is coming in at an angle like that. It's really hard to show you guys with this camera, but, and this is going to go in the middle of that. And the best way for me to explain it to you is just to show you. So I'm going to go ahead and glue on my first 3 scales, and then we'll go from there. Okay. So let's give it a little arch. Just checking myself out in the camera. Make sure you guys can at least kind of see what I'm doing. Okay. And this glue will dry clear, so don't worry about that. Okay, so off camera I'm going to go ahead and finish the last two and then the little custom piece on the end. And then I will start the second row, do like a half of a curve here, a half of a scale into that, a whole scale, a whole scale, a whole scale, and whatever's left. And I'll show you what I mean. I'll go ahead and do the first two layers and then we'll continue down and see how it turns out. So as I'm doing this, I am noticing it's easier to put the glue directly on the string than try and draw the glue and then match it up. It's just easier to work with the glue directly on the string. And try to make them as symmetrical as you can. Make them match each other. That way it looks smooth, like the scale should be. So that's just a little note as I'm following through. Alright, so we have our first two layers here. I need to add the little piece right here. So remember, when we go to add this, we're going to just cut just enough to fit right in there, just like I did this one and just like I did that one. And then on the next level, you're going to start here and go about, it's going to be about 2/3 of a string length, and it's going to go to the middle, and then a whole one to the middle, and then a whole one to the middle, and then a little piece. So essentially it's going to look like, I probably think that each one of these, it's going to come off of here with the exception of a little bit further down. The first couple are going to be hitting in the middle of the first whole scale. So this was a whole scale, this was a half one, this is going to be 2/3, and then the next one might be a whole. You'll see a pattern, and since it's starting to get smaller, you'll find out that as long as you have your 2-inch scales, you'll have maybe 3 here, 2 and a couple pieces here. You might get 3 in across here if you're lucky. You know, you just got to make sure you're keeping them even and crisscross. So if you see in the middle here, you've got like a little boat looking situation. Just make sure you always have, and I need to put one here, but I forgot that. Either you have a half-mast boat or you have a full boat. Full boat, half-mast boat, or this will be a full boat. So half-mast, full-mast, full, full. And just make sure that it has to either look like it's a half a boat or a full boat. That's about the best way I can describe it, other than just showing it to you guys, like finishing it. And then you guys can use the still photo to go from there. If you're still confused or concerned about whether or not, you know, you can get that pattern correct, just use the still photo from this video if you absolutely, you know, just can't figure it out. But I mean, it's just trial and error, and if you mess up, you know, all of the kits have enough paint, string, and glue in them to do this probably 3 times over. So I mean, if you make a mistake, you know, the glue dries clear, you know, stuff out here can be painted over, mistakes can be fixed. So just kind of have fun with it and make it your own, and try to keep up with that pattern as much as you can. And yeah, that's the best I can help you without being there in person. You know, it's one of those projects that it's easier to be hands-on and show you, but I think all in all, this is going to be a really cute project. You guys are going to knock it out of the park. I'll go ahead and I'll finish the rest of it off camera, and we'll see how it works out. Now, don't forget to stop when you get to, I believe it's about probably right here. You do like one, you'll see it'll be several layers, but you'll do about one more whole one right there, and it'll end right there. And then from here up, the fin is not going to have any scales. Okay, so just this body has scales, but not the fin. We're going to leave the fin pretty and maybe add a little bit of white highlights to it. Leave the fin blank and painted. Okay, so go ahead and start working on that. I did decide to put a small fine paintbrush in each of your kits for touch-up purposes, and if it is easier for you to use the paintbrush to add glue, maybe you squirt some glue into a paper plate, you can apply the glue on the string with your paintbrush, with the little paintbrush. So whatever's easiest for you, I'll go ahead and I'll finish, and we'll see how it turns out. We'll see how it did. Might add a couple white highlights here, and then that'll be it. You'll be done. It's tedious, but it's really gonna look good. And I mean, it's a beautiful, sturdy piece, and I mean, it's gonna be a showstopper. So bear with me, and you know, let's be patient and see how it turns out. Here's another little update and tip for you guys. I'm finding it is easier to just see how I've got the pieces hanging off on the sides. It's easier just to go ahead and glue whole pieces and then go in later and I'm gonna trim them on the sides instead of trying to cut down exact pieces. I'm just gonna cut those. I'm just gonna trim those when they're dry. Okay, so that might help you a little bit. Okay guys, so the glue is still drying, and so you see the white spots from the glue. That will take about an hour to dry. And you can see here I started cutting my string too short, and I noticed about 3 rows in, so I started trying to fix it here. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with it. If you get a section like this that it just went all wrong, you can actually just pull that section out and redo it, and you can make it work. I promise. This is actually one of the more tedious classes that we've done. But I think it really paid off. I added a couple white highlights here with a Crayola pencil that I had. I didn't want to go full white. You can use the white from the background to add some highlights here. I'll show you with a little bit of light. So you can still see it shiny and white from the glue, but this would also be a good chance and time to add some glue and glitter to your scales. I think that's what I'm gonna do, but the ombre effect is really nice. It's really pretty. And I think glitter is really going to make it pop. If I feel like adding that later, maybe. Yeah. So that was our mermaid tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, or if you want to show off your work, you can send it to me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I'll feature it on our page. And hopefully we have you as a subscriber to our YouTube channel as well. That way you can get all the updates and tutorials for our kits. And yeah, I can't wait to see what you guys do. I hope that it turns out good for you, and maybe you customized it a little bit better than I did. And I see a lot of really interesting takes on these classes, and so I'm always intrigued and always surprised by what you guys do. Thank you so much for supporting Bushel and Peck, and I hope you enjoyed the class, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.